Hello, hello. This is Cheryl. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today just to show you a flip through of this scrappy little fall journal that I made. I used scraps. A lot of the time, what happens is I print out a digital kit. I make something, but I have printed out more pages and more stuff that I needed, or more than what I used. So it ends up in the scrap box. It ends up in a file marked with the season that it is or the holiday that it is, and the papers sit there, and then I have a million book pages. From making journals, we all have a lot of book pages, and we're always looking for things and ways to use our book pages. And then I have a little box or a little pan that is filled with all kinds of bits and bobs, like little fussy cuts and flowers and tabs and die cuts and labels. You know what I mean. You get it. So I wanted to start using them up, and I've been on a mission to use a lot of those things up. And I've made master boards, and I've made, so that I could cut them up into tags and journal cards and different things. But to do something different, I was inspired by someone that I follow, Kara Brandon Creations. I was inspired by a Scrappy journal that she is working on as a Halloween journal. It's actually a challenge that she's doing. So I was so inspired by the way she made her pages from just book pages and scraps of other types of papers that I did the same thing. I sat down and I made each page, and they are basically just they looked in the beginning like a masterboard, sorta, but yet no base. They were both sides. It was layers of book pages and other papers. And then after I did that, then I added the fall papers, bits and bobs and things like that. Okay, so I made this entire journal. I think it is, I forget how many pages. It might be like 10 pages. And so I used my leftovers. I used my scraps, and I'm so proud of it. But anyway, let's look at it. So in the front, I took and cut one of the digitals. I cut this owl out because he was a fave. And I made this little flip. I made these little feathers from book pages, and I do have a video on my channel of how I made these feathers. So anyway, feather dangles. So anyway, I made this little flip, and this is the first page, and as you can see, it is very scrappy. And then I added parts of the, just digital pieces to make a page and decorated it. And I added a tall tag, which did come from that fall kit. And every page is very scrappy, as you can see. I hope you can see. This is just a security envelope with, the window envelopes that was in my, stash. And I made a pocket from it. It's very scrappy. And made a tag to go in it. And she shows up in the window, and I love that. Every page is different, and I just took book pages and put different pieces and put them different ways. I did it a little different than a regular masterboard, and then cut it up and made tags. Here we have a guest check that I embellished. scrappy page. Another scrappy page. They're all scrappy. And as you can see, I added die cuts then, and I added embellishments. And I sewed around every page because I wanted to make sure, because when I glued these together, I did it with glue stick. And I wanted to make sure that they weren't going to just fall apart. So I sewed around them. Here's another one of those different masterboard tags. Journal card. And I didn't worry about if the pages were all the same size even. Within, you know, a certain, within reason, but I didn't like stress about it. It was so fun because there was no stress to it. Here's more of those tags. Very scrappy, you know, scrappy pocket, little postcard. This was in my scrap thing. Here I've added some lace to this one. I didn't really do anything to this one because I love how it looks. And I just wanted it as a look page. Same with these. You can write here and, you know, but these are just decorated pages. And I love them so much. Here we have a pocket this is from, I used a lot of Edith Holden pages in here too. And here's just a scrappy tag from an Edith Holden page. Here's another piece that I just made into a tag, and I cut this to mingle with the bounding mane. I cut that from Edith Holden book. And I made this little matchbook from the apple part of the digital. There was apples. There was a couple apple things. So I made that, and of course I used the paper over here. Added a little sari ruffle and a die cut. Look how pretty and scrappy that is. Now you could put something on this page, but I left it. I made a pocket on this one and a tag to go in it. And I use there's so many different digitals and die cuts and different pieces they don't all match. They didn't all come from the same kit, but yet they go. And I like to take little strips of paper and sew like this and make these little, you know, they're not really a ruffle. They're just a little sewn piece to collage with. And I love doing that. And so I used several of those in here. This is one of the pages that I added that and made a pocket. A couple of scrappy tags. Well, this one came with the kit and I just added to it. The original kit. And this was just a scrappy one that I made. Over here's another flip with one of those little things that I made from scraps. And in here I made a pocket with a tag. I used Tim Holt's little boy. I thought he was cute on that tag. Writing space. I just love this journal. This is the kind of stuff that's fun because you don't have to stress about it being perfect or anything. This is the kind of stuff I love to do. And these are just little pages where you can write little bits. Or, you know, I could change them later and add a pocket if I wanted to. But I didn't. I just wanted to look at them. These are fussy cut from the Edith Holden book. So, die cuts that I have, and stamped pieces that I had made, and just scraps from everywhere in my craft room. And they come from different kits and different, here's a ruffle that I made a long time ago. I added that because it kind of went. I made this little paper bead to put on here. This is an envelope that came with the kit, And I have not filled it yet, but I have things that I want to put in there. So, like, I have some dried flower tags. Here's just a journal card on this page. Everything is collagey, and you know, I just love collage. These are all fussy cuts and different pieces from different places. Love it, love it. I'm loving it. Here's some of the dry flower tags that I have. And this one I just put different pieces. I mean, this is literally a cut off scrap. And so are these, all put on that little different master board that I made. And one of my little sewn pieces, one of my stamped pieces. A feral label from somewhere that was in the scrap pan. And, you know, just everything fall. This was a fussy cut. This was a fussy cut. And these, I don't know. This is the kind of journal that is so fun because, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and the scrappier it looks, the better, you know. There is writing space in it. I mean, you know, you have writing space, and yet you have all this beautiful collage to look at, and I love it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to do this again. I might do a video on how I made these pages. It would be beneficial. They measure, I mean, I made it not just your normal journal size. These pages are about 7 across and about 8.5 long. And like I said, I just started with book pages, brown paper, packaging, graph paper, anything that was a scrap that I would use in a masterboard. I made these pages. Music paper. I just started collaging and made it thick enough to become a page. You know, I had to make them and layer them so that they would. And then after I added the digitals later, I just kept adding. And they became, you know, they became thicker. And so they're very sturdy. And then I made these book page feathers because I thought, you know, since I have an owl and a raven in here, I just thought I should have some feathers on there. And I recently started making these feathers, and you can adorn them in different ways. And I made these dark on purpose because this is kind of dark, and I wanted them to look like they could be the owl's feathers. Like I said, I do have a video that I did recently on how to make them. The more layers, I'm finding that if you use about 4 layers of book page, when you make these, it's better than 2 or 3. Okay, these are thinner. They're still pretty sturdy because I sprayed them with a finish. And so they're still pretty sturdy, but I like them even sturdier so that they're not going to bend and tear eventually. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any other content. And I hope you have a wonderful crafty day. Bye-bye now.